The reason for Han Li's midterm state is due to fighting with the two Warren. It is caused by the transitional power and his own malevolent energy erupting. This led to his cultivation being adjusted to the foundational stage. In order to restore his cultivation, Han Li, who has just arrived and dying, was followed by a mysterious old man with initial foundational cultivation at an auction where he was supposed to die. The old man took out a mysterious treasure and invited Han Li to appreciate it. Han Li frowned slightly, his gaze lingering on the old man for a while. Well, since you have followed me for so long, it seems you have some sincerity. It wouldn't hurt to take a look. Let's find a private room to talk. I happen to have some things I want to discuss with someone. Han Li nodded. Suddenly, he pointed to a nearby shop and said, "A private room here. Seems a bit extravagant for just a snack." The old man was taken aback upon hearing this, hesitating for a moment. "No worries, this little snack is on me. I just hope that your treasure won't disappoint me too much." Han Li smiled slyly at the old man, leisurely saying, "Heh, my friend, you can rest assured. This item was obtained by this old man at great risk. This item was obtained by the young lad at great risk. Absolutely extraordinary." Jin Yuan chuckled a few times and said. Han Li nodded, no longer saying anything more, immediately led the old man towards a side hall. Entering the shop door, inside was a vast hall several dozen zhang wide. Empty. There was only one middle-aged woman dressed in green, a resident mistress, sitting cross-legged on a mat in the center. Upon seeing Han Li and the old man enter, she immediately opened her eyes and stood up. "Fellow Taoist, have you come here to see some of the secret techniques collected by our shop? Or do you need a private room to exchange insights on cultivation?" After scanning Han Li and the old man with her gaze, she smiled and said, "Just give us a private room." Han Li said calmly, with no interest in looking at the text at all. After all, it could be seen that the secret techniques and methods available for public viewing were quite ordinary, and needed a snack. "Moreover, once you leave our shop, the private room will be reclaimed," the middle-aged woman said with a smile. Then she reached to her waist. A small food item the size of a few inches appeared in her hand. It just appeared in his hands. Han Li saw this thing as proof, but then he calmly took out a snack, educating the other party. He then took the item and curiously examined it. "Is this the first time you, fellow Taoist, have seen the Heavenly Mechanism House?" The middle-aged woman noticed Han Li's expression. She asked with some interest, "Indeed, I have never seen such a thing before. This is a magical tool." Han Li shook the item in his hand. It felt light as a feather, as if it had no weight at all. The Heavenly Mechanism House can be considered a magical tool, but it can also be not considered a magical tool. However, it is very convenient. As long as you inject spiritual energy, it can be enlarged for use. Of course, low-level Heavenly Mechanism Houses can only enlarge and shrink. They do not have other effects, but high-level Heavenly Mechanism Houses can come with formations for enhancement. When stationary, they can even be comparable to treasures. Of course, what we are giving to you is just a more ordinary type. Besides being soundproof and preventing eavesdropping, it has no other effects, the woman explained in detail to Han Li. Han Li was surprised to hear this, although he was told there was a secret room when he entered. "Can be rented? But I didn't expect it to be such a peculiar item. This item is not available in Tianan. Thank you for your guidance, fellow cultivator." Han Li expressed her gratitude. Then, under the other's guidance, she walked towards a side hall. Jin Yuan closely followed behind Han Li, but after a moment, he couldn't help but say, "Fellow cultivator, this is your first time visiting the Tiaji house. It really surprises this old man a bit, but that's not surprising. Such items are generally sold by the Tiaji pavilion, specifically for loose cultivators and high-level cultivators who often travel long distances. It's rare to have such cultivation at such a young age. At a glance, it's clear that they are a disciple carefully cultivated by some sect. Such flashy yet impractical items naturally wouldn't be purchased. Moreover, these items are quite expensive. If you have the means, it's better to buy magical tools. Spirit herbs are more cost-effective. How much would a relatively ordinary Tiaji house like this cost? Are all snacks shaped like this?" A casual question from Han Li. For low-level ones, you only need to display a piece of snack. For high-level ones, it depends on the accompanying magical calming item. But basically, they are much more expensive than the magical tools on the same street. As for its shape, the Taoist has a variety of styles. There are pagodas and towers, various shapes of courtyards, and more. I've even heard that the Tianji house at the very top of the Tianji pavilion is essentially a small cave dwelling. It's extremely convenient. The old man noticed that Han Li seemed interested in this, so he shared everything he knew. A small cave dwelling. Han Li paused for a moment upon hearing this. He was a bit surprised. Heh, it's better not to think about such good things too much. This type of cave-dwelling Tianji house costs at least 10,001. That's something we can only imagine, the old man said with a bit of self-deprecation. Han Li's expression returned to normal. He nodded. By this time, they had arrived at the side hall. There, 5 or 6 stone houses appeared sparsely in the shop. Each one was identical to the miniature house in Han Li's hand, when enlarged. Moreover, their surfaces shimmered with a faint white light. Han Li's heart stirred. He casually used a divine stone to probe one of the houses. Sure enough, as soon as the divine stone made contact, it was blocked by a layer of restrictions. This kind of restriction is simple and easy to set up. This kind of restriction is simple and easy to grow. The divine stone can easily break through the barrier, but the same restrictions have been breached. The owner of the house can immediately notice someone is spying. They will soon become alert. This method is indeed a relatively safe way to prevent others from eavesdropping. With this thought in mind, Han Li lifted the miniature house, golden light flickering in his hands. He infused some spiritual power into it. Instantly, the house began to warm up slightly. At the same time, it trembled continuously. Without hesitation, Han Li threw the house towards an open space. With a flash of white light, there was a muffled bang, and a tree-sized house appeared before him. Please enter, golden beast. After Han Li offered the food politely, he turned his hand and said to the old man courteously. The old man was not polite at all. Although he had seen this house a few times, he had truly not entered it many times. Golden Beast stroked his sparse beard on his chin, chuckled, and took a few steps forward to open the stone door and walked in. Han Li smiled, and also stepped slowly into the house, casually closing the door behind him. The room is not big, but it is quite exquisite. In the middle, there is not only a stone table and stone chairs, but also a long bed with a clean appearance. The old man has already taken a seat on one of the stone chairs with great ease. Han Li extended a hand and pressed it against the wall, and the moment the room was quiet, it suddenly came to life. He then walked over and sat down opposite the old man. Earlier, he heard there was something to understand, but he didn't know what it was. The old man suddenly asked, with a serious expression, "What's the matter? I plan to stay in Guaning Prefecture for a while, but I am not well informed about the local families and sects, and some taboos. I heard some accents, which seemed to be from local people. I just wanted to ask a fellow cultivator for some information." Han Li said calmly. So, it's this kind of matter. No problem. This old man is not boasting, but not only in Guaning Prefecture, even in the entire Laozhou, there is nothing this old man doesn't know. With a relaxed expression, the old man smiled and said, he said with a smile, "Since the owner of this place is one of the 3 major families of Guaning Prefecture, let's start by talking about the families here. It would be best to mention some major events that have happened in recent years, so that I can often witness Han Li's charming demeanor. The immortal cultivation families of Guaning Prefecture. How should I put it? This area basically falls under the Confucian sect's influence. Therefore, most of the families, big and small, originate from various branches of the Confucian sect. However, the 4 major families of Guaning are different. Aside from the Kong family, the other 3 families each have their own heritage. The 4 major families. Isn't Guaning known for its 3 major families? Han Li raised an eyebrow, casually asking a question. Heh. The 3 major families of Guaning are just a recent development. 10 years ago, it should have still been the 4 major families. However, the Feng family somehow offended the other 3 families. As a result, overnight, they were uprooted by the 3 families. All the disciples of the Feng family were completely eliminated. It is said that at that time, the Feng family was discussing some major matters, and all the disciples happened to be gathered together. The old man began to speak endlessly. Han Li, the author, quietly listening to the other party's narration, the events that happened to Feng Jia back then, comparing it one by one with what that Feng Zhen described, to see if there are any hidden insights. After finishing the story of the family, the old man began to recount again the various sects and factions of Guaning, large and small. This elder, known as Jin Yuan, has clearly been to many places. He has also experienced quite a bit, not just Zhongning Prefecture, but he seems to know the other prefectural cities very well too. Han Li listened very satisfactorily. He also gained a clear understanding of the entire cultivation world in Liao Province. This is much more detailed than the information obtained from Cao Mengrong. However, this person seems to be quite talkative. Once he starts speaking, he can't stop. He talks like a river flowing, not pausing for a moment. He even occasionally shares some of his own opinions, insights. This discussion took a full quarter of an hour. This statement took a full quarter of an hour. Finally, when I closed my mouth with some lingering thoughts, Han Li smiled broadly, after all the nagging and talking on my behalf. But now, let's talk about the golden chest medical insurance. Can it be taken out for me to have a look? Of course. One treasure is fine. The little old man still wants Han Chong to help. Let me identify it. The old man readily agreed. Then, under Han Li's gaze, he mysteriously took out something from his waist storage bag. He placed it on the table. Han Li glanced over the river. The divine stone shone on it. But then, his heart sank. As the divine stone swept over, the objects in the river surprisingly generated a strange repulsive force, making it impossible to penetrate the river. At this moment, Han Li became genuinely interested. Meanwhile, Jin Yuan carefully opened the box lid, revealing a dazzling golden object. It was about the size of a fist and appeared hazy. Fellow Taoist, you can take a closer look at this item, to see if you can recognize it. Jin Yuan pushed the golden object towards Han Li, speaking somewhat eagerly. Tan Lai Mai jumped slightly, silently picked up the object, and began to observe it closely. At this moment, he could see clearly that it was actually a bubble-like existence, with the surface shimmering with unusual golden light, and the middle was transparent and hollow. In the middle, it was transparent and empty. However, there is not a trace of spiritual energy above. It seems just like an ordinary object. After examining it for a long time, Han Li extended a finger. A flash of inspiration struck. It was enveloped in a layer of green light. She gently poked it. As a result, her finger sank deep into the soft, yielding surface. It felt as if it truly existed like a bubble. A hint of light emerged from the surface of the bowl. After thinking for a moment, Arthur released the divine stone and wrapped it around. As a result, the bubble flickered a few times and pushed the divine stone aside. However, this time Han Li was not pleased. After some contemplation, she increased the strength of the divine stone. A strand after another of the divine stone prince's contamination wrapped around. Suddenly, a strange scene appeared. The surface of the bubble in the river was shimmering with golden light. Its size began to expand and contract intermittently. The fluctuations were not large, resembling a strong, beating heart. What is this? Have you seen it? Senior Big Eye. After frowning for a long time, he used the divine stone to communicate with the great eye god. Do you really think I am idly sitting by? I have never heard of such a thing. However, since it can resist you, the divine stone's penetration can be considered a treasure. I should ask the other party in detail how they obtained this item. Then whether to accept this item is up to you, the deity said with annoyance. Upon hearing this, Han Li smiled inwardly. He did not get angry, but his gaze flickered with intrigue. The divine stone was collected, restoring the bubble to normal. He placed the healing item back on the table. So, how about it? Do you recognize this item, my friend? Jin Yuan's wife asked. Sorry, my experience is limited, and I truly cannot recognize this item, Han Li said with an apologetic expression. Han brother doesn't recognize it either. No, I just noticed this item earlier and had an interest in it. I thought you might know its use. The old man looked quite dejected, and there was a hint of suspicion in his expression. Han Meking chuckled. Unconcerned, he explained that it had just changed. It was merely a large amount of divine stone that had been wrapped up to create this. Although he didn't know what it was, he could barely call it a treasure. Oh, is that so? The old man seemed somewhat skeptical, his gaze falling on the golden bubble in the river. He also twisted it and released the divine stone. He noticed that the divine color remained unchanged, quietly watching the old man's actions. After a while, the bubble indeed began to shimmer with golden light, and it slightly expanded and contracted. The old man let out a long breath. A hint of fatigue appeared on his face. After closing his eyes for a moment, he opened them again. Jin, I am not doing well. I have embarrassed my fellow Taoist, but the power of the golden chest's divine stone is truly extraordinary, Jin Yuan said. A look of envy appeared on his face. In his view, the other party's cultivation was about the same as his, yet the earlier action seemed effortless, while he struggled, to such an extent. Naturally, this was because the other party was a natural divine food, so strong in preparation. Such a person would definitely be a key disciple in any sect. Their future must be limitless. Han Li smiled faintly. He did not refute anything. Where did you get this chicken breast? Where did this chicken breast come from? It indeed looks peculiar. I wonder if it has any special origin. Of course, if the chicken breast feels uncomfortable to mention, then that's fine, Han Li said calmly, showing an indifferent expression. There's really nothing secret about the origin of this item, but I'm afraid that once it's said, it might bring misfortune, as Jin Mo mentioned, because this fact is indeed a bit unbelievable. Jin Yuan hesitated for a moment, then he forced a smile. If you don't say anything, how would I know you don't believe me? Moreover, knowing its origin, I might even recall something. After all, it's just a lifeless object. I really can't remember its origin. Han Li smiled foolishly and said, listening to the other's tone, it seems this item really has some stories behind it. In fact, there's nothing to hide about the origin of this item. It's just that because of this item, all my friends I had connections with have perished. Therefore, I'm a bit reluctant to bring it up. After sighing, Jin Yuan said. Han Li was stunned upon hearing this. Seeing the other's contemplative expression, she knew he had more to say. So, she immediately fell silent. You should be able to guess. I am a loose cultivator. Moreover, I am one who has cultivated earth attribute techniques. My other abilities are quite ordinary, but I happen to possess a natural earth spirit body. But it just so happens to be a naturally born earth spirit body. There are some small disturbances on the earth shield tree. If it weren't for my inferior spiritual root, I fear many major sects would be eager to take me as their disciple. Speaking of which, the old man's face was filled with regret. So after I, Jin, made some progress in my cultivation, I often like to go to some remote mountains to search for ancient cultivation caves. I hope to find some ruins of the Spirit Emperor, which could turn my fortunes overnight. However, those ancient cultivation caves and spiritual objects are not so easily found. Although I can't say I found nothing, compared to the time wasted here, it really isn't much. Until 3 years ago, Jin Yuan's voice paused unnaturally. It was only 3 years ago that I was invited by a friend who said he discovered a giant ancient cultivation tomb from the ritual period. He planned to use my Earthshield tree to go explore it. If we could truly obtain treasures, naturally, I would get my share. Upon hearing this, I, Jin, was naturally overjoyed and immediately agreed to go. As a result, those who went with me, there were a few other acquaintances of mine. At that time, I already knew this ancient tomb is likely quite extraordinary. Sure enough, when we entered the ancient tomb, we discovered the old man's voice began to tremble slightly. We found that inside the ancient tomb was actually from ancient times. It was the famous tomb of an emperor. That person, in ancient times, was known for his brutality as the king of Zhuanyi. He can be considered a legendary figure. We were all quite disappointed upon seeing this. We thought it would be a wasted trip. After all, no matter how remarkable he was among mortals, what could he possibly offer us cultivators? But who knew that after entering the focus room, we discovered the burial items in the tomb. There were actually many rare materials and magical tools used for embellishment. Naturally, we were all eager to seize them. Just as we were preparing to take the items, who would have thought that the numerous accompanying corpses in the tomb suddenly came to life? They transformed into invulnerable walking corpses. No matter what magical tools or techniques were used against them, they were all completely ineffective. Immediately, most of my companions were caught off guard and were torn to pieces. At that moment, a sound echoed in the main chamber. That legendary king of Zhuanyi, and a sound also came from the subjective realm. That legendary Zhuanyi seems to be about to resurrect as well. Fortunately, I am proficient in the art of earth escape. Sensing something was wrong, I immediately escaped from underground. Otherwise, I would have fallen in that chest. But others were not so lucky. When Jin Yuan spoke to this point, his face turned slightly pale. It seems the scene from back then truly shocked him quite a bit. So, what is this thing? Han Li felt a slight surprise in his heart, but still pointed at it and asked, this item is something offered in the subjective realm. I took it when I left. I thought, since this item is so peculiar, it must be a rare treasure. But who knew after asking around? No one knew what this was. Although they knew it was unusual, no one was willing to pay a high price to buy it. It has just been kept in hand like this. Jin Yuan Dao did not hide much. He spoke directly and plainly. However, the frustration on his face was evident. Since it is a burial item of an ancient emperor, it is not surprising that no one knows about it. After all, during ancient times, many things have long since vanished from the current cultivation world. However, a mortal emperor surprisingly possesses something from a cultivator, and has even transformed into a walking corpse. It seems the problem is quite serious. Did you not find anyone to explore the porcelain tomb again? Han Li asked with a strange expression on his face. Naturally, I went to look for that ancient tomb again, and even brought a large group of high-level cultivators with me. Who would have thought that, when I arrived at the original location, that ancient tomb had inexplicably vanished? leaving only a vast wilderness behind. I truly find it hard to believe what I saw. However, regarding the location of that tomb, I indeed did not miscalculate. Even the subtle marks I intentionally left at the entrance of the tomb were still clearly visible. As Jin Yuan spoke, his expression turned cold and gloomy. With tears welling up, his brows furrowed. If all of this is true, then only the old man survived among the group. Moreover, since the old man did not find the tomb, there's no need to mention what happened afterward. This old man's days will definitely not be easy. Where did you see the ancient tomb, my friend? Could you share it with me? After a moment of thought, Han Li calmly spoke again. It can still be found there. Naturally, it is deep within the Snow Forest Mountains, the old man said through gritted teeth. The Snow Forest Mountains. If I remember correctly, you seem to have mentioned that there were embellishments in the market regarding those who went missing in the mountains. Could it be related to this matter? His eyes flickered with a strange light. He slowly said, perhaps. The old man wasn't too sure either. However, if you are interested, I can show you the address of the ancient tomb. Maybe Brother Han will have a chance to check it out. What discoveries could there be? After hesitating for a moment, he said this. Then he took out a piece of jade from his bosom. I reflected on something in my hand. After entering, I casually handed it to Han Li. Alright, if I have time, I will go take a look. Suddenly, after a moment, Han Li reached out to take the jade. Unfazed, he said with a chuckle. It seems that the old man and I really hit it off. This feeling of frustration in my heart hadn't been shared with anyone for a long time. How about this? I see that Brother Han seems quite interested in this item, so I will sell it to you at a cheaper price. As long as Han Dao you gives 100 for snacks, you can take the things. How about that? The old man smiled and said, 100 for snacks is indeed very cheap, but we can't let Brother Jin suffer a loss. How about this? I'll give Brother Jin 200 for snacks in exchange. This Ness hasn't smiled yet. Seemingly a bit embarrassed, he said so. Then he reached into the storage bag at his waist. Two middle-grade snacks appeared in his hand. He handed them to the old man across from him. The Jin Yuan sword is a middle-grade snack. His face involuntarily showed a smile. He immediately exchanged polite words and took them over, and the golden bubbles that were healing naturally retreated back to Han Li. And Han Li, in front of the old man, casually tucked the jade into the storage bag. The old man saw this. His face was full of a look of satisfaction. He seemed to be a bit reluctant. But just then, a retail item at Han Li's waist moved slightly and made a soft sound. This made the old man pause. He stared curiously at the retail item at Han Li's waist and asked with some curiosity, "It's nothing. Just a first-grade retail item that I keep. Just a first street retail kept in captivity. The intermediary series. I'm just a bit interested in this thing." I took a glance at that spirit beast, he said with an indifferent expression. Jin Yuan listened to this. He felt a bit puzzled inside, but he didn't want to ask anything further. He immediately chatted with Han Li for a while, then he got up to take his leave. Watching the other person push open the door to the food and walk out, Han Li's smile gradually faded. A hint of gloom appeared on his face. After a moment, he suddenly took out the jade box again and opened the lid. Gazing at the object in the river, he remained silent. Are you really planning to explore that ancient tomb? The voice of the great I God came from the divine stone, calm and indifferent. Of course not, although I don't know how credible that person's words were just now. I'm not a novice. Why would I take such risks? However, I am indeed a bit curious about the Emperor's tomb. If I recover all my cultivation, perhaps I'll go take a look. But that person told me these things. Clearly, there were no good intentions behind it. What kind of casual acquaintance would openly share such things? Do you really think I'm a 3-year-old child? An old man who has lived for so many years would easily divulge such secret knowledge to others, let alone to a stranger met for the first time. Such enthusiasm must be either deceitful or malicious. A hint of coldness appears at the corner of your mouth. A casual smile hides a sharp blade. That's true. However, those young novices are the easiest to be deceived by such people. They think the other party is being sincere with them and easily let down their guard. In the future, they might find themselves sold without even realizing it. Back in the day, I, the great I God, sighed. When it came to myself, my voice lowered. My words abruptly came to a halt. Even the predecessors were once deceived by such tricks. Han Li was taken aback. He chuckled lightly. I was young once too. What's so surprising about being deceived? The great I God snorted a few times, looking somewhat awkward. All right, the younger generation won't pry into the embarrassing stories of the predecessors. However, This thing actually made the soul-calling beast. It seems everyone is interested. It really does seem a bit strange. Han Li's expression is serious. Then, with one hand, he patted the retail belt at his waist. A beam of dark light shot out from the belt. It landed on the table. It transformed into a mini monkey about an inch tall. The little monkey had shiny, jet-black fur. As soon as the monkey appeared, it immediately sniffed a few times. Its gaze instantly fell on a golden yellow bubble. There was a hint of hesitation on its face, which was a bit strange. It stared at the soul-raising beast in silence. It began to communicate with the beast mentally. From the sensing transmitted by the divine stone, it seemed that the soul-raising beast was somewhat afraid of the golden cannon. But what about that eager feeling that coexisted at the same time? Han Li thought it through slightly. Suddenly, black ominous energy erupted from the soul-raising beast. It jumped up. Its body plunged into the golden cannon. Following that, the surface of the golden cannon shone brightly. From the cannon, strands of gray flames emerged out of nowhere, wrapping the beast within. A look of pain appeared on the soul-raising beast's face, but it continuously released a swirling mix of pitch-black ominous energy and gray light. The pitch-black evil energy intertwined with the gray eyes. The figure remained motionless in the soaking water, your brow furrowed tightly. Although I don't know what happened, it is evident that the soul-retrieving beast doesn't seem like it can come out anytime soon. It seems to be cultivating on its own with the help of the gray flames. What puzzled him was that the moment the flames appeared, the soaking water suddenly became vibrant with spiritual energy. It emitted an astonishing ripple as if it was conjured from nothing. Wait, this scene seems familiar. I should have some impression of this thing. In the divine stone, a light doubt came from the great eye god. He seemed to have recalled something. Did the senior remember something? Han Li asked unexpectedly. Let me think. It seems like it was a long time ago. The great eye god's voice became a bit more serious. Hearing the other party say this, Han Li did not urge him to speak. He quietly gazed at the golden cannon. The soul-retrieving beast also seemed to be pondering. After quite a while, the great eye god's voice finally came again. I remember now. This thing, in my historical travels long ago, I once saw it on a 10,000-year Lion King. It seems that Lion King was a high monk in the Buddhist sect during his lifetime. Transform into the Lion King, refine one's own relics into a powerful and formidable passport, for treasures are incredibly powerful. Once released, they are almost indestructible for a short time. I have also suffered greatly from this before, but that was a long time ago. Moreover, the passport released by the other party is silver. I didn't think of it at the time. However, such things should be hidden within the Lion King's body. Then it falls to the golden source. Such a person adorned with machine modifications, playing the role of a deity, their words are filled with differences. Even you have suffered greatly before. Then this item is indeed incredibly powerful. It can be called a treasure, no matter how that person obtained it. The key now is whether summoning the soul is dangerous. Han Li's expression changed slightly, but still, with concern, he asked, You still don't understand. Your retail is currently being established in Greece. Speaking of which, not only are you a freak, even your retail is incredibly strange. There is actually a spirit beast that specializes in restraining ghostly demons. I have lived for so many years, and have never heard of a soul-summoning beast. The great deity is difficult to receive a banquet in Greece. Han Li looked on. Indeed, the sound device released by the soul-summoning beast, gradually swallowing the gray eyes, feeling a sense of peace in my heart. But after hearing the words of the great eye god behind me, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. After evolving several times, it's still not a soul-raising beast. It's really quite uncomfortable. Han Li looks a bit helpless. This thing is a kind of easy retail, I mentioned. Why is there a demon ghost pattern behind it? These experiments have turned into a grayish-white color, definitely pure fire from over 10,000 years. Ordinary decorative retail has its pros and cons. This retail actually dares to swallow these. It's really different from the usual. However, it seems that the compassion treasure has not been completely refined yet, and it hasn't been recognized by a master. Otherwise, the Lion King's divine thought would return immediately. Even if separated by thousands of miles, it would fly back instantly. It feels a bit strange. The great eye god looks somewhat curious, not yet recognized by a master. So, if the experiment is completely absorbed by the soul-raising beast, I would have obtained a treasure for free. Z's. I didn't expect that the Buddhist techniques didn't gain the Tao immortal, but obtained a treasure of the Buddhist sect. I really want to see how powerful this relic's diamond shield is, to see just how divine it is. After a moment of silence, Han Li suddenly laughed. It's not a relic, it's a diamond relic. Most relics are predominantly white. Other colors are rare. Only golden relics can be called diamond relics. They are considered a very rare type of relic. Any practitioner who refines such relics will basically hold a position as a diamond protector in the Buddhist community. They have an extremely special status, probably similar to the status of law enforcement elders in other sects. The Great Eye God sighed and explained to Han Li, saying, "The passport drawn from this type of relic should be even more formidable than the one you saw before." Han Li's eyes flickered and asked, "It should be, right? After all, the reputation of the diamond is also renowned in the Buddhist community. However, I haven't really compared it. I just mentioned it." The voice of the god playing the role was somewhat hesitant, uncertain. Han Li smiled, just as she was about to say something else with the divine stone. Suddenly, the golden bubbles on the stone table trembled. A ball of green light the size of a grain of rice. Suddenly, it burst forth from within. It rushed straight towards the extreme top of the Shai family. Han Li was taken aback. His gaze was fixed on this glowing orb. Without thinking, his divine sense resonated with a sound of madness. Instantly, the green light seemed to collide with something. It fell and was rebounded back down from the air. It was precisely Han Li's divine stone transformation technique, forming a barrier of divine sense. At that moment, the soul-raising beast snorted. A ray of rosy light flew out from below. It swiftly pulled the green light back into the immersion and swallowed it into its belly. Han Li furrowed his brows tightly, listening to the golden bubbles. He vaguely guessed something in his heart. Meanwhile, in a tomb chamber thousands of miles away, 3 giant stone statues were placed side by side. This tomb chamber was extraordinarily large, measuring over 100 jong in width. The temple walls were not only carved with numerous ancient murals, but each corner of the chamber also had a massive bronze cauldron. Inside, a fierce green flame was burning, casting a dim light throughout the tomb chamber. Suddenly, a sound of pain came from one of the stone statues on the left. Then, with a loud bang, the thick lid actually flew off the height of a staff, then fell heavily back down. Black mist swirled around. A tall figure appeared, silently stood up from the stone gate. "What happened to Wanga? Why are you so angry?" From within the stone gate in the middle, a middle-aged man's voice emerged, deep and resonant, exuding authority without anger. "Oh, I lost my focus for a moment." The tall figure in the black mist let out a few low growls, in a tone like a parrot's beak, stammered and said, "I lost my focus. It was that avatar sent out. Was seen and taken back by someone." "Right. It's okay. This is not a big deal. This little distraction can be restored. Your father passed down the title of name and celestial master to you. Soon it will return to normal. There's no need to be so furious. Your temperament still cannot be controlled." "Huh?" Another voice, calling for a break. A sweet and unusual female voice emerged, softly said, But my diamond shield." The tall black figure pounded its chest twice, still looking around and grunting. "The virus shield is the one I killed that old monk for last time. Is it the virus shield that was established and refined by him? Haven't I already helped you refine most of it and handed it over to you? Why is it still not recognized as your own?" The middle-aged man's voice deepened, becoming somewhat cold. The shadow in my black mist became a bit flustered upon hearing this, momentarily unsure of what to say. "My king, this matter is not the fault of the prince. The prince has discussed this with me." The little fairy's officer also made a creaking sound, as the official cover was moved aside, revealing a graceful and enchanting figure. However, the dim light made it impossible to see her face clearly. "What exactly is going on? My beloved, please clarify this for me. That virus shield is indeed a rare treasure. I saw that Valfa's power was still shallow, so I entrusted it to him for protection. Otherwise, I would have refined it myself long ago." The middle-aged man's voice softened slightly, and he asked. That sweet woman's voice hesitated for a moment. Then she sighed and said, "Several years ago, during the king's slumber, I opened my mouth to inquire." The sweet voice of the woman hesitated for a moment, then sighed and said that several years ago, during the king's slumber, however, he moved his own acupuncture point above the ground. He was preparing to refine the pill fortress with the power of moonlight. It was a rather arbitrary approach, but who would have known that a group of outsiders would suddenly burst in from nowhere, because at that time, Wanga was in the midst of his cultivation. He needed to absorb the power of moonlight. Therefore, most of the stillness had not been activated. As a result, this group of people actually intruded into Wanga's main chamber. Wanga, feeling helpless, had no choice but to temporarily interrupt his training and let those foolish beings without any ambition take action to deal with this group of people. However, there was one person who was quite clever. He actually recognized Wanga's identity as the Lion King. He immediately knelt down and begged for mercy, willing to accept confinement in exchange for his life. observing that the person was quite astute. He saved him from confinement, and accepted this person. What does this have to do with the establishment of the diamond? The middle-aged man, upon hearing this, had not yet heard the content he wanted to hear, and became somewhat impatient. My lord, please calm your anger. The key point is that the man provided Wanga with an idea, saying that it would be effortless to obtain the souls of outsiders. He could collect the spirits of outsiders without lifting a finger. It was said to be a wine that could be consumed effortlessly. It could collect the refined spirit from the outside world. No need for us to send our subordinates to search tirelessly. The woman explained calmly. There is such a method. Let's hear it. The man seemed a bit curious. It's actually quite simple. The person suggested. Let Wanga hand over a strange and rare treasure to him, then secretly embed a strand of divine thought inside it. After that, he would sell this item to other lone wanderers, and lure them to Wanga's ancient tomb. If they come, it would naturally be a dead end for them. But if they don't come, Wanga's split consciousness will, at the right moment, activate the hidden mechanism within the treasure. It will kill that person, and also take that person's primordial spirit back to the ancient tomb. However, this treasure must first be something rare in the world. Moreover, it must be hidden well without any signs of moisture or exposure. Otherwise, it would backfire. The woman said slowly, and needless to say, Wanga will definitely hand over that unrefined, unacknowledged virus shield to this person. Only the relics on this treasure can conceal Wanga's aura. The man interrupted the woman's words. Only the relics of the Buddha on this treasure could cover Wanga's morale. The man interrupted the woman's words, coldly saying, indeed, it is just as the king thought. Because after the master was finished, even the virus shield could not conceal the dampness. And at that time, the child urgently needed a large amount of refinement, so he took the risk of handing this item over to that person. However, I specifically instructed this person not to provoke any refinements above the calamity level, to prevent any flaws from being exposed by others. In the previous years, there have been quite a few people coming to us voluntarily, and there were no mistakes or errors. But this time it seems that person did not listen, resulting in this treasure being taken. The valve in God was also harmed. We will launch a stillness to capture their original spirit and interrogate them thoroughly. The woman suddenly shouted, with such petty disturbances, how much original spirit can we gain to allow the general to plant something? As long as it succeeds, there will be a continuous source of original spirit for us to use. Moreover, it won't attract the attention of those Buddhist and Taoist cultivators. The man snorted and then said coldly, is this what happened a few years ago? The king took General Jie away from the ancient tomb for a while. Then he returned alone, and here's the reason. The woman was slightly surprised, but it was fine. The current General Jie has long since transformed into another person, and he is manipulating a prestigious family, making those human modifications work for us, even to disguise his identity. General Jie also manipulated and allied with other families to preemptively eliminate another, the human family that inherits the Buddha sect, who let their clan leader notice something was off. They even wanted to inform nearby Buddha sects. I will take action personally. First, I will eliminate the modified beings within their sect. Then I will have General Jie lead the human modifications to easily wash out that family. A man's giggling laughter echoed, filled with a hint of pride. So, what exactly is the king's plan? The woman asked in shock upon hearing this. Heh, it's nothing complicated. You will naturally know in the future. This method was suggested to me by the true monarch of the pinnacle of Fangjian Mountain during his last visit. He has also been doing this secretly, and he is still safe and sound to this day. Just be a little cautious. At the very least, for the next 200 to 300 years, we no longer need to worry about refining our primordial spirits. Even if something really goes wrong, we can just pack up and leave. We'll just take the matter elsewhere. Besides those few old monsters, who can stop me? The man said proudly. Tian Fang Zhenjin. This person is not a simple character. Why would he kindly share his secrets with the king? He must have ulterior motives. The woman, however, remained calm. She started to feel a bit worried. Of course, he has his schemes. He just had to use his words to get 3 bloody pills from me. The man's voice grew a bit angry again, but I still feel somewhat uneasy. The reputation of the Twin Peaks is not great at all, especially since he wants to lure the king out of the tomb. We must know that our lives and primordial spirits are all integrated with this tomb. As long as we don't leave this tomb, there are very few who can harm us in this world. The woman still looked somewhat worried. My dear, you have a point. We cannot be careless. I will open all the mechanisms in the tomb during the trial period, and be extra cautious when going out. I won't let the twin demons know when I come out of the tomb. The middle-aged man pondered for a moment. He also became a bit more serious. The king has his reasons. This will do. In fact, why should the king personally intervene? If there's anything, it can be handled by me and a few avatars. After all, as long as the king is safe, I believe that, no matter what strong enemy we encounter, we will give the king some invincibility. The woman's voice suddenly became exceptionally charming. Haha, my beloved doesn't know this. To implement this plan, we must have control over all the prominent families in Jiangning. Last time, to deal with that old monster Kong, I couldn't damage his corpse, so I sustained some minor injuries, and didn't strike continuously, although the other two major families didn't have any apparent reasons for their actions. These two families have remarkable legacies. They possess several treasures that just happen to restrain us. It is likely that the sects behind these two families know that I am here, and deliberately sent disciples to establish families here, trying to monitor me. Now, I have not been active for over 1,000 years. Now this king has not been active for over 1,000 years. They probably have long forgotten about this matter. I just happen to be able to take action and capture them all at once. By the time these sects realize what's happening, it will be many years later. I should have used the terror of humanity to break through the last layer of the realm. I would have perfected the body of a celestial master. The man seems to be exceptionally fond of the woman, he patiently explained. Then I must congratulate the king in advance. Once the body of a celestial master is perfected, the king can leave the tomb. You will no longer be trapped here. Upon hearing this, the woman seemed to be filled with joy. Ha ha ha, after this world, it's not just you two, my king. I also have a way to perform soul techniques, to separate you and the prince's primordial spirits from the tomb. The man said darkly. However, my king, that virus shield still needs to be retrieved. After all, this item is truly different from ordinary treasures. After refining it, it can immediately become an indestructible body in a short time. Have you forgotten that old monks sent out this relic? Although it hasn't formed the virus shield yet, just the golden light protecting the body made the king trigger the fire. It took 3 days and 3 nights to set up the golden light chain and eliminate this monk. If it were to be refined into a virus shield now, if at this moment it is established and refined into a diamond shield, I'm afraid the power will only get closer. The woman reminded him. My dear, you are confused. This kind of indestructible barrier can only be refined into treasure with the power of moonlight by our eternal Lion King. Humans shouldn't even think about this matter, and among all the eternal Lion Kings in the world, besides me, there is only the retro master of the bent bone, that eternal senior brother. Would a human dare to approach the bent bone? With that long sail in the vertical drum, I'm afraid not even the 10 righteous sects and 10 demonic sects would dare to get close. No one would approach. The man with a piercing gaze said with a teasing tone, That's true, but such a treasure is exactly what we need. Let's wait until we find out who it fell into the hands of, and then send someone to retrieve it. The woman reluctantly said, Even if you don't say it, I will send someone. However, since this person can collect the second spirit from the indestructible barrier, he should not be an ordinary person. Once we have a lead on the first-class treasure, I will send the two of you to act together. As long as he is not the cause, those above mid-level refinement should be fine. The man said with exceptional confidence, I want to go too. I will also go. The tall figure shrouded in black mist, since the middle-aged man spoke to the woman, has remained silent. At this moment, upon hearing these words, suddenly spoke up, saying, How did you go out? You can't contain all the moisture on you. The one who entered is a disguise. You can see your true self. How did you go out? Stop with the nonsense. Quickly go in and cultivate. The man's voice deepened, as he reprimanded unceremoniously. Upon hearing this, the tall figure immediately wilted. He could only stretch out an arm covered in green fur, and wave towards the distance. After waving, he lay back down. But a pair of blood-red eyes suddenly recalled something, when a hint of ferocity flashed across them. It was crucial for a lifetime. He flew back from the ground, and recovered the stone barrier thousands of miles away. Han Li naturally did not know that he had merely exterminated a tiny strand of divine thought, yet it would provoke so many events. He was now gazing at the golden cannon before him, which contained the soul beast. The dark and uncertain expression hinted at unspoken thoughts. Meanwhile, someone walked out of the square. Jin Yuan, who had just returned to his room, suddenly heard a clear sound. In an instant, he was enveloped by a gray flame. His body transformed into a wisp of blue smoke. He vanished without a trace. As for his soul, it appeared in the flames, panic written all over his face. He was unharmed, but it seemed that his soul was being pulled by something. The flames wrapped him into an inconspicuous light ball the size of a fist. It shot out through the half-open window, then it ascended into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared without a trace. Throughout the entire event, no one noticed the old man's disappearance. In the weather house, the cold spirit beast was seemingly not going to be extinguished anytime soon. After some consideration, he finally stored the spirit beast along with the diamond shield into the retail space and walked out. He then shrank the food back to its original size and returned to the main hall. After handing the weather house back to the middle-aged woman, Hanli returned to the square. By this time, it was already afternoon. The decorations in the square had suddenly decreased by half. It was already afternoon by this time. The number of cultivators in the square suddenly decreased by half. Everyone went to the other pilot room across the way. They went to the auction. Hanli did not hesitate. He walked directly across,